So, guys, last night we finally had a chance, or Shane had the chance to watch Halloween Ends. I had watched it Monday night, right, or Sunday night. And Shane, we had a little bit of time to discuss it. Man, I got to be honest with you. Going into this, I really love Halloween, the movies. I love the first Halloween. I think may be like the best movie of that era. I love all of them. I'm not the biggest fan of like Rob Zombie's Halloween movies, but that being said, I own them, and every once in a while, I can't help when I want kind of something different, Michael, and new Michael that I haven't seen in a while, I'll go back and I'll check out those Rob Zombie Halloween movies. So I do own them, and I do enjoy them to an extent. But guys, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This Halloween Ends movie is not enjoyable on any level for me as a fan of this franchise. I had a horrible experience with this. It was a very exhausting to get through. I wanted to shut it off so many times. I hated everything about it. I remember having my wife pause the movie at about 45, 50 minutes in, and I think it was about then when we were finally going to see Michael for the first time on screen. Which, brings me back to when I went to see the most recent Jurassic Park movie, and I remember there was like a 55-minute, part where there's no dinosaurs, and my 1-year-old daughter finally lifts up her arms, and she goes, "Dinosaurs?" And I look over and
you do have dinosaurs.
Right. I look over and I'm like, "Yeah, dinosaurs, baby, right? Where the hell are the dinosaurs?" And so yeah, it was very reminiscent of that feeling of like, I'm here for Michael Myers, and it's 50 minutes in, and I'm now finally about to see him. So then we see him, right? And spoilers, if you haven't seen it, guys, go check it out. Mute this, come back and check it out later. But yeah, so we find out Michael's been in a drain ditch tube for, I don't know, 5 years plus maybe. He's very weakened, in a weakened state, and he's having to drag people in and kill him there. And we see that what is now the main character of this movie, which it should be Michael Myers, but it's not. It's was it Corey, right?
Corey.
So we got Corey, our main character, who again, performance-wise, I thought the actor gave the best performance he could with the material he was given. But he goes into the tunnel, and then Michael, decides to not kill him. He literally grabs him by the throat, and he Ghost Rider penance stares him like in the eyes. He judges his soul, and I guess he determines that this one shall live. I don't know. It's fucking annoying, and it's stupid, guys. It really is a frustrating movie experience, especially as a fan of, like I said, a big fan of this franchise. And going into it, I had a lot of hopes that I would just get another fun, like the last movie. It wasn't a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, Halloween Kills, but I had fun. I remember thinking, cool, Michael's murdering people, and I feel good about just that. Where in this movie, like we talked a little bit about, Shane, we have this more feeble, maybe old elderly version of Michael that's strong at moments, but can't even fend off a dude from taking his mask at another moment. And man, I could go on and on and on about how bad this movie is. There is a few things that you and I, Shane, disagreed a little bit on it, and that was just that beginning scene for me. I thought when I had first seen it, I had thought, this was an interesting idea how, Michael Myers and the thought of him maybe being in this town has affected Haddonfield in a way that, people are now being murdered almost on accident just because the idea that Michael could be there. And I thought, that's interesting. It wasn't something that I felt like I ever wanted to see or needed to know anything about, but I thought, oh, interesting. But then it just rolled into this whole story of, again, like I was telling Shane, I felt at some point we were gonna, we're passing the Black Panther mantle, like with the mantle of Michael Myers. Take the mask. You are now the Black Panther. Like, it just felt so silly. And then that didn't even happen. And then the real kick in the teeth for me was, we kill Michael, I guess. A movie ago, they literally stabbed him, shot him, was beating him to death. He still got up and killed everybody. But now he's completely dead. He's tied to a car, and we drive him to like a meat grinder, right? Or a car.
Yeah, it's like a car smasher.
Yeah, and this thing, they throw him in there, and it, very badly CGs him, grinding up into, nothing, pulp. And so Michael Myers is gone, guys. He's dead. And somehow Jamie Lee Curtis, who is also 79, manages to escape him and overpower him. There was also a moment I didn't mention in the tunnel where he finally does get his first kill, which I believe was 58 minutes into the movie. And when he does, he doesn't even do it on his own. He can't kill the guy himself. He basically gets his ass kicked, and then Corey holds him down and Michael stabs him. And when Michael does, again, there's this moment where he's like shaking and oozing from the eyes and stuff, and it almost looks like he's like powering up or leveling up. And then there's this kind of, again, there's these little interesting moments where I remember thinking in my head, oh, this is kind of interesting. He needs to kill to be stronger. And I remember thinking, oh, that's kind of cool. But then again, it never means, it doesn't. That's not what it was. I don't know what they were trying to insinuate with him shaking and oozing at the eyes, because he didn't get stronger. He kept killing in the movie, and he still ended up being this feeble old man at the end of the day. So again, guys, honestly, I could go on and on and on about how terrible this movie is. And I guarantee you, in the pantheon of these movies, when I go back and every year, like me and Shane have been talking about, and I watch Halloween 1 through 80, I promise you I will never watch this movie again. And in fact, it makes it really hard to even watch that 2018 or Kills version, just because this is so bad. It's left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I resent the idea that all of these people brought all of these things to the table and still thought that this was going to be good. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis has been in multiple of these movies. I mean, the director that directed this directed the last two. He directed Pineapple Express, The Sitter. To think that this movie got to where it was, and so many people, had their hands and eyes on it, and it didn't get something to correct all the issues. Like, it's very poorly written, and it's lots of cliche characters and ideas, or like Shane mentioned a little bit ago, about how the town itself, it becomes, a certain way, and even that is kind of cliche, I feel like. So anyways, I'm glad it's out of the way. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that it's over with. When it ended, I remember thinking, thank God, and I hope I never have to see one of these things again. That's how bad it was for me. Now that I've had a day or two to digest it, I still feel really terrible about it. But, what I fear most about this, Shane, and I was telling you about this, is that now we may end up with 5 or 10 years, right, before we could potentially ever see this character or this franchise again. And that's what scares me the most as a huge fan of it, again, because I don't want to see Michael on the shelf for 10 years. So it feels terrible, but I did just have to see him on the shelf for pretty much 2 hours and job to some dude named Corey. So that being said, Shane, I'm going to kick it over to you. I know that you had to watch it last night, and it couldn't have been that far into, when you told me you were starting it, that I got a text from you that was like, oh, man, vomit emoji. Am I really going to have to go through all of this? And I text you back and was like, yeah, good luck, man. It was the worst Halloween movie ever made. And honestly, I was shitting on Hocus Pocus 2 a week or two ago. And I'm telling you now, I'll watch Hocus Pocus 2 every day for the rest of my life before I watch this freaking movie again. So yeah, Shane, What are your thoughts, man? Tell us what you're thinking.
Oh man, what a terrible excuse to be a Halloween movie. First of all, it wasn't even a good movie. Even if it wasn't a Halloween movie, these David Gordon Green didn't want to make a Michael Myers movie. I really got the sense that they were burnt out. They wanted to bring other, different elements. They wanted a deeper villain with emotions and pain and backstory. And oh my God, we don't need that stuff. It was terrible. It was an awful movie. They wanted to make the Joker movie, but with Michael Myers. But yeah, this was a terrible excuse for, a horror movie, because they break so many conventions, not in a good way, but in a terrible, dramatic way, meaning you don't make your villain so feeble that he gets his butt kicked all the times we see him. Multiple and therefore, people. When he shows up at the end, I have no fear that Laurie is ever going to die. Why? I just saw this little punk
20-year-old.
Yeah,
right.
Rolling on the ground, wrestling with him, and stealing his mask. Oh, well, I don't have anything to fear anymore because Michael Myers is pathetic. You just destroyed all my nightmares. Awesome. So I should be thanking you because I am no longer scared of Michael Myers. And then you have this other co-villain, Corey, who gets beat up by these 14-year-old band camp kids, right? So then it's just like, well, I don't fear him either. So you made both your villains, both your scary elements of this movie, just completely weak, feeble, idiotic, and it just, there is no more suspense anymore. You completely lost the suspense. So I'm over here just, my eyes are exhausted from rolling them the entire time I'm watching this movie. And it was just, like I said, a terrible excuse to be called a Michael Myers movie, a terrible excuse to be called a horror movie. There was nothing horrific in it. There was, way too much, emotion and backstory and everyone blaming Laurie for their problems. I mean, when it happened the first time, it was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I like that aspect, where it's
Again,
like
interesting idea.
Idea.
But then
that they take it way too far because they're complete.
That's
they do
exactly
it like 5 or 6
about
times.
The Corey character in general. Again, interesting idea, but then it just becomes all about that, right?
No
it's like
kidding.
That's not what I thought we were doing. I thought
that's
it was
not what
just
I signed up for.
Right.
That's not what we wanted in a movie. And, honestly, we're not asking for much. It's not like, oh, you did the fans a disservice. No, you did Michael Myers the disservice. And, honestly, here it is, 2023, almost 2023. It's almost been 40 years since I thought we learned the lessons of Halloween 3. The original Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which, again, is actually a good horror movie. If you would have called that movie, The Mask, or just Season of the Witch, we would all be like, hey, man, that was really cool.
We need a sequel.
But it did so poorly because there was no Michael Myers in it. I thought we learned that lesson 40 years ago. If you're going to call a movie Halloween, it needs to have a threatening Michael Myers. He needs to be there from the beginning. We were having this conversation about the teaser opening at the beginning. And I call it teaser opening because that's what it should be. It shouldn't have any ties to the overall story. It should just be setting up tone and atmosphere and get me in the mood for a nice scare fest. Instead, it's the entire backstory of the main character that we're going to have to follow through most of this movie. And, there were some cool elements. I understand why Key enjoyed that scene, but the whole time I'm just like, why is this in this movie? And he was talking about, maybe Michael Myers is lurking in the background. Well, was he? Why don't you as filmmakers show me that so you create a sense of dread?
That being said, you do remind me of a shot that I really dug, that I thought was cool, and 2 shots actually, because there was the one in the beginning where there's a dude babysitting a kid, and they're watching John Carpenter's The Thing. I thought that was beautiful.
That was the best part of the movie because The Thing is amazing.
Yes.
And we got to see some
and
cool
it's John
special
Carpenter's
effects.
version. I thought it was all like, to me, it felt very nostalgic, and I was like, "Aw, thanks, filmmakers, for putting in that little bit of goodness." But other than that, there was this other scene when he first lures the first cop guy down to the drain ditch thing, where the cop guy is kind of looking. He hears a sound, and he's bringing his light, and he kind of looks around. And right in the corner, if you miss it, you just won't see it. But Michael's just standing there. and you could see his mask and his body, and then there's like another sound, and you look, and the light goes up, and there's Corey up there, and I thought that moment was great. Again, there's great moments. Everything with the drain ditch thing was good in a sense, right? Because it was scary.
Well, that had my favorite shot. The very first time Corey's going down the drain, you have this really cool shot where most of the frame's black, except for the small little round opening. And the camera kind of turns a little bit, so you kind of have Corey twisting. That was very cool. I love that shot.
Yep.
But I mean, you can't have a good movie based on cool shots.
Yeah, for sure. And the stuff again with the drain ditch is scary because again, just that in itself is scary. You know, a place where a bunch of homeless people kind of live is kind of scary, and it's under a bridge where those people live, and then you kind of wonder, is he feeding on homeless people? But then there's the one homeless dude out there, right? That's like his freaking keeper. It's like, oh, that dude in there, and then that dude tries to like stab Corey, and oh my God, there's just.
Right? Why is the homeless guy? I mean, that isn't explaining, because you came from a tube of evil, and I got to understand why you survived, and so I'm going to kill you.
Right? Yeah, for
Just
sure.
nothing made sense. Everything was illogical, and when you have illogical characters, which we do a lot of times in horror movie, but when you only have that because you don't have a killer in the background, it doesn't make it worth it. Like whenever you have the dumb babysitter running up the stairs to escape the killer, we're all rolling our eyes and going, oh my God, why would you make that mistake? But we're still enthralled in the story and still tense, and it doesn't matter. But when characters are making stupid mistakes and there's no tension, and I'm just there going, why are we watching this?
Right.
It just creates a terrible movie. I don't know what genre they were wanting to make, but it wasn't horror. This was like OC drama. You know, it's going to be on the WB channel. Is WB still around? Or CW?
CW, yeah.
Is that still around? This was like the CW Halloween.
Right. They don't quite have the full rights or something. You could use him for like
You got 15 minutes. Yeah, right.
All right, guys, we spent too much time talking about this terrible ass movie. Guys, if you haven't seen this movie, don't see it. Don't waste time on this movie. It's 2 hours long, and it's not worthy of your time, people. I promise you it's not. So don't waste your time on it. But let us know if in the comment section below if you have seen it. How horrible was it for you? Was it equally as horrible? We'd little less horrible? More horrible? Maybe you enjoyed it. And if so, that's great. You know, I'm glad that people can enjoy it. But God, I just wish I could have.